You, whose hearts are broken, come in. You whom pain has touched, and sorrow and shock. You who have cried this week and read the news with sadness. You whom loss has shadowed, you who grieve, come in, come in. You with hearts open to joy and hope, come in. You whom love has touched and friendship and wonder, you who have laughed this week and felt gratitude for life's many blessings, you to whom gifts are given in abundance, you who rejoice, come in, come in. All our hearts are broken and open. All of us here grieve and rejoice. This is our place, and this our hour, to gather and sing and cry and laugh. Come in, let us worship together. Let us worship together with our opening song. It is Gather the Spirit. It's number 347 in your gray hymnal.
You may rise and body your spirit as you're able.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fire.
With gratitude for the gifts of friends, family, and community, food, water, and shelter, beauty, and nature, and with acknowledgement of suffering, disappointment, and injustice, we light this chalice. We give thanks to the Spirit of life, source of our existence, the power of love. You may be seated.
My name is Kim Chappell, and I'm the worship associate for today. Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster. We are a congregation of free faith, and you are welcome, no matter what your identity, your origin, or your religious background may be. We are enriched by recognizing our common humanity despite any cultural differences. I'd like to introduce our service leader for today. The Reverend Dr. Sandra Fees is Minister Emerita of the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Berks County, that's in Reading, where she served for 18 years. She most recently served as a contract co-minister at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg, and currently she is working with Soul Matters, leading small online groups, as well as guest preaching, which she's doing today, and consulting. And she holds a Doctor of Ministry and Master of Divinity degrees from Lancaster Theological Seminary, so she's well familiar with our city.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you for the warm welcome this morning. I have a wisdom story to share with you this morning, and this is a story that is probably familiar to many of you. I hope it is, because it's just a wonderful story, and it's a story that my mother used to tell, too, and there's so many versions of this one, and I'm sharing a version from Anthony DeMello this morning. But again, it's an old folk tale, and you can find it in lots of places. And it kind of goes something like this. A woman in a village was surprised to find a fairly well-dressed stranger at her door, asking for something to eat. "I'm sorry," she said. "I have nothing in the house right now." "Not to worry," said the amiable stranger. "I have a soup stone in this satchel of mine. If you will let me put it in a pot of boiling water, I'll make the most delicious soup in the world. A very large pot, please." The woman was curious. She put the pot on the fire and whispered the secret of the soup stone to a neighbor. By the time the water began to boil, all the neighbors had gathered to see the stranger and his soup stone. The stranger dropped the stone into the water, then tasted a teaspoonful with relish and exclaimed, "Ah, delicious. All it needs is some potatoes." "I have potatoes in my kitchen," shouted one woman. In a few minutes, she was back with a large quantity of sliced potatoes, which were thrown into the pot. Then the stranger tasted the brew again. "Excellent," he said, but added wistfully, "If only we had some meat, this would become a tasty stew." Another person rushed home to bring some meat, which the stranger accepted graciously and flung into the pot. When he tasted the broth again, he rolled his eyes heavenward and he said, "Ah, tasty. If we had some vegetables, it would be perfect, absolutely perfect." One of the neighbors rushed off home and returned with a basket full of carrots and onions. After these had been thrown in too, and the stranger tasted the mixture, he said in a voice of command, "Salt and sauce." "Right here," said a woman. And then came another command, "Bowls for everyone." People rushed to their homes in search of bowls. Some even brought back bread and fruit. Then they all sat down to a delicious meal while the stranger handed out large helpings of his incredible soup. Everyone felt strangely happy as they laughed and talked and shared their very first common meal. In the middle of the merriment, the stranger quietly slipped away, leaving behind the miraculous soup stone, which they could use anytime they wanted to make the loveliest soup in the world. And that is the story of the soup stone. And we are going to join in song again with, it's hymn number 1008 in the Teal hymnal. It's 1008, not 1010. If anyone is watching the numbers up here, 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Of course, you may rise and embody your spirit as you're able. Here we go.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. To the top! When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. Here we go! When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy. Last time from the top. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy, repeat that. When our heart is in a holy place.
Reverend Fees has chosen two readings for today's topic. The first is by Rick Jarrow. What we come to understand and affirm is that even through the most difficult circumstances of life, abundant beauty and richness may be found. It is our faith in the goodness and wisdom of things that allows us to work our way through life's darkest moments. In this way, abundance is also faith, in the basic goodness of life. It is saying yes to all that we can know of life, including the suffering that surrounds us. It is also saying yes to that which we do not know, to open and accept the unknown with grace. A sense of abundance gives us the freedom to participate fully in our lives by doing what we can to assist others. If we do not ourselves feel rich, how can we give to others what has been given to us? In this way, abundance becomes the rainbow shining through the storm, the promise of our divine destiny. The second reading is by Parker Palmer, well-known Quaker and writer. The quality of our active lives depends heavily on whether we assume a world of scarcity or a world of abundance. Do we inhabit a universe where the basic things that people need, from food and shelter to a sense of competence and of being loved, are ample in nature? Or is this a universe where such goods are in short supply, available only to those who have the power to beat everyone else to the store? The nature of our action will be heavily conditioned by the way we answer those bedrock questions. In a universe of scarcity, only people who know the arts of competing, even of making war, will be able to survive. But in a universe of abundance, acts of generosity and community become not only possible, but fruitful as well.
When life is going well, it is easy to speak of abundance. When we're happy, in love, employed well, and healthy, things progress with a kind of ease and a sense of appreciation. But those days when everything is falling apart for us, or when the world's suffering is too much with us, those days it can be hard to look around and see anything but mud puddles. Yet those are the very days, the very times that an appreciation for what we have is most needed. This approach to abundance is not about everything going right. Instead, it has to do with noticing in a new way. Consider this scenario. Life's led you into a puddle. Are you still staring at your mud-covered feet? Or are you ready to look up and notice that the wide open sky never went away? The point of living abundantly isn't that our feet aren't ever wet or mud-covered. It isn't that there aren't real dilemmas we face, that there aren't real struggles, or that the world would be just fine if everyone ignored the mud. Embodying abundance has to do with also looking around to find that sky, that wide open sky, to see what there is of beauty, and to really, really notice it, to really see it. That noticing holds the potential to be life-altering. The world won't be perfect as a result, but it will be better. This way of seeing has to do with recognizing that wide open sky, recognizing that it is already available to us, even in those difficult mud puddle times. Writer Heidi Barr points to this deep-seated and spiritual wisdom when she asks this: what if instead of seeing poverty, despair, pain, and cruelty in the world, we saw opportunities for growth, seeds of hope, room for healing, and the sharing of compassion? What if we could truly embody abundance in every thought? Well, when I first read her words, I was alternately nodding my head yes and also shaking my head no, because I felt passionately that we have an ethical responsibility to recognize and address suffering and privilege and violence, greed, and basic injustices in the world. Any consideration of living a spiritually abundant life can't ignore any of these. It just can't. And yet, Barr is also naming a powerful truth. When we see and experience abundance, then our ability to share it grows. Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Angela Herrera gets at a similar idea, also emphasizing the importance of embodying and sharing abundance. She writes, "Abundance is not about having what you want, but about noticing what you have and multiplying it through sharing it, multiplying it through your manner of being in this world." Well, for me, this brings to mind a wisdom story that I return to again and again. You'll find I like stories. And this story is a story of two men who'd been injured in combat in war. Both of them were quite ill. They both had to remain calm and quiet. They shared a small hospital room. It only had one window and one door. One man's bed was near the window. He was permitted to sit up for 1 hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon by that window. The other man had to spend all of his time lying flat on his back. There was no television or radio, so instead they talked to each other for hours and hours, sharing their life stories. And every morning and every afternoon, the man sitting at the window would recount the wonders, the glory that greeted him beyond that window, beyond that glass. He described this beautiful park with a blue lake where ducks and swans glided along. Children threw bread to the birds and sailed model yachts. Young lovers walked arm in arm beneath the full leafy trees. There were beds of roses and dahlias and marigolds that bloomed in gorgeous bronzes and golds and crimsons. In one corner of the park was a tennis court. Many days, lively tennis matches were being held. The man lying flat on his back relished hearing the stories, relished hearing what the other man shared with him about what he could see from that window. He seemed to have found a way to appreciate what he had. He actually lived for those hours in the morning and the afternoon when the man sitting by the window would describe that world beyond, that beautiful world. But then one day, he grew resentful. And his resentment festered, and it grew and it grew. He focused on what he didn't have, and he wondered to himself, why should that other man get all these incredible sights? Why should he have the bed by the window? And that resentment consumed him. And then one night, the man whose bed was by the window awoke. He was coughing violently and choking. And he tried unsuccessfully to reach that call button to summon the nurse. The other man didn't move. He kept his eyes closed as though he were sleeping. Eventually, the room was silent. In the morning, the nurses discovered the man by the window was dead. After allowing a respectable amount of time to pass, the man who had to remain flat on his back asked if he could be moved to the bed next to the window. After he was moved and the nurses left, he hoisted himself up on one elbow. Moving caused him excruciating pain. It took all the energy that he had, but he wanted to get one look out of that window, right? He wanted to see this with his own eyes. And when he finally hoisted himself up and he peered out the window, what he saw before him was a blank wall. Some of you have heard this story before, perhaps. Some of you have experienced this story in your lives, perhaps, metaphorically speaking. Who hasn't wanted what another person has? Who hasn't ruined their own happiness at some point in their lives by focusing on what they lack rather than on what they have? Despite looking out and seeing a brick wall, one man was able to see beyond that wall, to see a vision of hope and life and beauty, and to share that vision. It wasn't that he didn't see the blank wall. He just didn't let that wall contain him. He didn't let it define his life for him. He allowed the world to come alive through his imagination, and he found a way to delight another person through his imagination and to share it and multiply it. How incredible to see through eyes like that, to embrace the wide open sky. The other man, by focusing on what he didn't have, lost what brought him joy. The stories the other man told him and the companionship, he lost those. The man whose bed was by the window, he lost his life. He died. But the other man, I think he died too. How different that story might have turned out had the man lying flat on his back looked for the abundance that already existed in his life and kept his focus on that. In this morning's reading by Quaker educator Parker Palmer, he encourages people to assume that at its core, the universe abounds with generosity and potential. Now, you notice he didn't say that people are always being generous. He was saying that the universe abounds with this potential, with this generosity. He says the quality of our active lives depends heavily on whether we assume a world of scarcity or a world of abundance. In other words, do we begin by believing that there just isn't enough for everyone, or do we begin by believing that the world is bountiful and beautiful and generous, even though we know it sometimes goes awry? We know this. He also says that in a universe of abundance, acts of generosity and community become not only possible, but fruitful as well. When I hear Parker Palmer's words, I can't help but think about how much we need acts of generosity and community right now. We always need acts of generosity and community, don't we? We always need them. but we need them now as much or more than ever. We need fruitful ways of sharing rather than stinginess and competitiveness. We need ways to reopen ourselves to beauty and to gratitude, and to see not only the proverbial glass being half full, but also to see the whole glass. Which leads me to another story, and this is a true story. True in the sense that it actually happened this way. It's a story told by Chester Bennington, and he was being interviewed as part of Project Human, which is a documentary film capturing stories of the human condition. It's a story that Bennington shared about his grandfather, and it's relatively short. And Bennington said this: "The magic moment I had with my grandfather was right after my grandmother died. I went to see him, and I knew he was hurting, but I wasn't sure what kind of state he would be in. And she was his partner 65 years, as well as his driver. I went to see him and I said, 'Grandpa, how are you doing?' And he said, 'Did you know that for $4 I can get a shuttle anywhere in the city?' I said, 'Wow, that's great, Grandpa.' And he said, 'Well, I went to the grocery store and I went to the woman behind the counter and said I had a list of things. Could you help me find them? My wife has recently changed her residence to heaven.'" And I said, "Grandpa, man, you always helped me to see the glass as half full." And my grandfather leaned back and looked me in the eyes, and he said, "It's a beautiful glass. It's a beautiful glass." Imagine being able to see the whole glass, to see that it's beautiful, to affirm that life is still beautiful even after a terrible loss. Imagine, just imagine. This is not a Pollyannish optimism. Seeing the beautiful glass does not ignore life's harsh realities. It's a fierce and heart-opening affirmation of the inherent capacity and capability of beauty and goodness and compassion and fairness in the world and in us and in the power of it. This outlook insists on seeking and finding the best in our lives and in the lives of those around us. It invites us to embody abundance in nature, at work, or at home, whether we are alone or in a crowd, whether we are with friends or strangers, whether we are in times that are quiet or times when life is coming at us so fast, faster than we ever imagined it could. It invites us to embody abundance in all those times, even in those mud puddle times. As the Swiss-French poet Jean-Baptiste Sen wrote, "It's not what we have that constitutes our abundance, but what we appreciate." Right? It's not what we have that constitutes our abundance, but what we appreciate. May we notice what already exists and be grateful for it. May we learn to see the beautiful glass. May we embody abundance and come to share and multiply it with each other and the world. May it be so. Amen and blessed be.
Would you please join me in reading the responsive reading, which you will find in the back of your gray hymnal, number 515. This is by a Unitarian Universalist named Richard Fuchs. We lift up our hearts in thanks. Please join me with the italicized sections. For the sun and the dawn, which we did not create, for the moon and the evening, which we did not make, for food which we plant but cannot grow, for friends and loved ones we have not earned and cannot buy, for this gathered company which welcomes us as we are from wherever we have come, for all our free churches that keep us human and encourage us in our quest for beauty, truth, and love, for all things which come to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves, gifts of life and love and friendship, we lift up our hearts in thanks this day. My parents were young adults when the great crash of 1929 occurred. They had grown up simply. My father, a first-generation American, a bright man who had to leave school to help support the family, and my mother, equally bright, whose dream of going to the Westchester Normal School fell apart because there was no money. And this was before October 1929. Needless to say, they were already familiar with stretching dollars when the economy tanked. Waste not, want not was their watchword. My father joined the Navy at 39 after Pearl Harbor, and it wasn't until he returned that my brother and I were born in the late 40s. We grew happily in our rural home, with no experience of deprivation, but always with our parents' hard work and unvoiced frugality as models. It's as if the waste not, want not mantra had somehow become part of our DNA. We lived abundantly. Did you know that the word abundant comes from the Latin word unda, meaning wave, as something in great plenty or number? However, our abundance was not of material things, but of love, care, expectations, and the natural world around us. Gratitude reflected our abundance, whether by church attendance, grace at meals, or the simple care of our belongings and surroundings. But in the intervening decades, materialism seems to have become the overriding ethos of our society. The desire for more and more things or experiences, perhaps understandable from the viewpoint of those who had so little in the past or still do in the present, has metastasized wildly. The metastasis has been enabled by the huge advances in communication technology. I was 7 years old when we first got a TV. Today, I see my very young grandchildren, and of course, many adults, transfixed, captured by screens they hold in their hands. Advertisers depend on creating the feeling that we need more, more, more. Thanksgiving has always been my favorite holiday. its genesis in New England gave the indigenous peoples there one rare credit that all too soon was erased by European expansion and greed. Sunrises and sunsets seem more precious in fall. The winter wheat burgeoning now in the fields where soybeans and corn grew give a green promise of renewal. The horses and mules have grown their thick winter coats. I am even thankful for the great abundance of fallen leaves, because they will enrich my compost piles and shelter all the good critters who will pollinate next year's flowers. But Thanksgiving seems threatened as a special holiday for us to give thanks. It has been severely by advertisers promoting Halloween and Christmas spending. Halloween items appear in early September, and Christmas advertising begins in October. Thanksgiving seems increasingly to be less a day and weekend to reconnect with family and friends and to express appreciation for all that we have been given than an official starting gun for Christmas spending. More, more, more. This Thanksgiving, let's insist on its importance. Resist the siren song of more, 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 and count our blessings. Contrast what we have with what so much of the world does not. Think of Gaza, Sudan, Venezuela, Ukraine. Think of all the countless other places where people live with no expectation of their next meal or of medical care. Count our blessings and be thankful. It's now our time to do our regular selection or collection from you kind folks. Donations that benefit the church, but half of which will be contributed to a local charity called Off the Streets. Off the Streets helps folks express in homelessness get permanent housing. And half of our donations today go to that charity. The collection may now, I'm sorry, one more thing. While this is playing, or while this is being collected, our pianist, Alan Dinnan, is going to play an original piece called Gray November Day. Thank you, Helen. That was lovely. Weekly, we have the opportunity to express our joys and sorrows, our gratitude, to reflect on the past week by coming up to the sand bowl and pressing a stone into it. At this time, please rise as you choose and come up and bring your joy and sorrow to be recognized.
Let us hold the stirrings of our hearts, the heartache, and the astonishment in a moment of silence. O source of love and wisdom, source of life, great mystery, help us to see the overflowing abundance of our lives, the abundance of all creation in which we live and are interdependent. Help us to see the abundance of love, generosity, and meaning overflowing in our lives. Help us to transcend our either-or limited scarcity thinking about gender, ability, nationality, culture, and race, to see that there are myriad abundant ways of being, and that they are beautiful in their spectacular array. Help us to see that there is enough for ourselves and all people, and to live into that truth. May our sorrows be lessened by our sharing them. May our blessings be multiplied through our sharing them. Amen. Blessed be.
Would you please join me in saying our affirmation of faith, which, if you are not familiar with it, is just inside the front cover of your gray hymnal. First in English and then in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. I draw your attention to the many announcements that you find in your order of service immediately opposite the service order itself, and then also on the back. I want to draw particular attention to what's happening today. It's the kickoff of our congregational common read, which is the book by Matthew Desmond called Poverty by America. And if you join us downstairs after the service for coffee, which I hope you will, please, you have the opportunity to listen to some sample passages from the book, and also you can get a copy of the book. After the holidays end, there will be discussions on this book, so you have plenty of time to absorb it until 2026. And one more announcement, and that's not printed. That is that the open mic, which was scheduled, is postponed until the first Sunday in January.
And will you rise and join in our closing song? It's number 1010 in the Teal hymnal. We're going to sing it through twice.
Precious day for those gathered here and those far away, for
for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. One more time, come on. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away, for this food we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Woohoo! You all are so, I just have to say, so filled with gifts and love here with your music and all of your volunteers and your worship associate and tech people. It's fabulous. You have something special. We close our time with these words. May you rise in the morning and greet the dawn with a grateful heart. Throughout the day, may you accept the simple gifts that arise, food, shelter, water, sunshine, with a grateful heart. May you greet others whose paths you cross with that same gratefulness. And when evening comes, may you greet sleep with a grateful heart, a heart of compassion and joy. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.